Hello, hi everyone, welcome to the WOLF1E podcast, and welcome to my Twitch streams. It's been a while. Hello, Diablo, welcome. Well done for being first in the chat. Okay, stream is barely starting, that I'm already choking. Oh my god, Daddy Arder. What? Did I say that? No, I didn't. Okay, hello everyone, welcome. Today is my first stream of the year, and it's also the episode 2 of the WOLF1E podcast and the first live WOLF1E podcast. So just because maybe some of you who are going to be joining or who joined already don't know that I am actually starting a podcast these days talking about Formula One, and I recorded the first episode like a couple of weeks ago when I was basically doing my prediction for the 2026 F1 season, drivers and teams. It was a lot of fun, but of course the season is about to start. We are going to go into the Australian weekend just this week on Thursday. It's going to be starting, and finally F1 is here. It's back. I've missed it so much, honestly, and yeah, it's going to be very interesting to be back, and just for that reason alone I think it would be interesting to do a short podcast version of live version of my podcast, talking about everything F1, everything that happened during the winter testing, the winter break and everything as well, and the latest rumors and the rankings at the moment, And so, yeah, I thought it would be interesting to dive into all that. So, we were last time talking about the state of things, where people were or supposedly were looking at, but it was before testing or in between testing, I would say. And what we learned basically is that Aston is doing really, really bad. So what I wanted to look at was just a few things that we had been learning through the both Bahrain testing that happened, maybe go into the rumors and the things that are actually happening right now in the world, which may bode not too well for Formula One in the Gulf, and also just try and predict what we could be seeing in Melbourne, basically. So I think the first thing that we need to talk about is the reliability of those cars, because everyone was saying, okay, this is the new year in this regulation, so obviously cars are not going to be as reliable as they were last year, because of course after 10 years the engines were pretty much pitch perfect, they were barely ever failing. I don't remember like more than once or twice an engine breaking down last year, maybe a bit more, because I remember that Alonso had a few just by himself, but other than that, honestly, it was not that much. And so I was thinking, okay, this new reg is obviously going to be different. Teams are learning how to make those new 50-50 engines work, and obviously it's going to create those situations where someone is leading and maybe they have an engine failure or something like that, or they have a problem, we don't know, with the battery or stuff like that, because these are the things that tend to happen, right? But what we learned actually from testing is that some teams actually look like they are already bulletproof. They look like they already have figured out the reliability to some extent, but they have been doing some very, very long runs, a number of laps absolutely amazing, to be honest, like over 1,000 laps for most teams. And that's very impressive. And we saw a few times some cars stopping on the track side, but nothing too dramatic, I would say. It was it was not as bad as people were expecting. I mean, even the fact that the Barcelona shakedown was not streamed or media was not allowed there during the 3 days of the 5 days actually of testing, it showed that the FIA was not very confident with those cars and the ability of them to remain on track and do their numbers of laps. But the fact was that it was alright for most teams. Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari was very impressive as well, and even the midfielders were pretty much doing a great job. And what it makes me think is that we're going to have a very interesting season where there could still be some failures here and there, but it's not going to be terrible to a point that whoever finishes the race is going to win, you know? Because it's been the case before when the season starts and all the cars are breaking down and it's basically a survival game of who remains at the end. And I don't think it's going to be the case. I do think that the top teams, the big four, is actually pretty rock solid, I would say, by now. And they're not going to be too hard to finish race. It's not going to be too hard to finish race for them. So I do believe that the competitiveness of those cars is still going to be very important, very relevant, and maybe we'll see here and there like a engine failure or a car breaking down for some reason that adds a little bit of drama and spice to the sport, because that's honestly what we've come to expect from Formula One, honestly. So yeah, I do think that it's going to be very interesting to follow when it comes to reliability. The second thing that we're going to monitor in that new season is Aston Martin. I wanted to talk a little bit about them because I remember putting them not too high, honestly, in my predictions. I remember thinking, okay, Fernando Alonso is a two-time world champ. He's going to be performing. He's going to extract best of his car, and he's got Adrian Newey and all those engineers that they pretty much, got from here and there to create this kind of dream team. But I was kind of on the fence because, it's a new power supplier with Honda. It's also, whenever you have a dream team scenario, you have to learn to work with people, and it's not as much as the individual talent of the team, but very much the team building and the spirit within the team that makes a great team and people winning championships. And so I wasn't too sure they were going to be performing incredibly well, despite people saying, oh yeah, they're going to be the fourth best team now, they're going to be ahead of Red Bull and stuff like that. I do remember hearing that sometimes during the winter break, but obviously it was not the case, and obviously it wasn't too good after watching the Bahrain tests. By the looks of it, Aston Martin is literally the least prepared, the least performative car and team. They have done a ridiculous low number of laps. They have not been testing things at all. They have barely been able to run their cars without breaking down. And from my understanding, it's mostly due to the engine, the Honda power unit, which is not optimized, or call it whatever you may, but this engine is not performing at the level that it should be performing compared to the others and to the expectations. But there's not only that. I mean, I have no doubts that Adrian Newey's input on the aero was probably very interesting and probably um, valuable, I would say. But by the looks of it, the fact that he's being thrown in as team principal and that he didn't join the team before, like, let's say a year ago to actually be working in, because he got recruited like a year and a half ago, but he waited since the start of last year basically to actually work on the car, and by then some of the work had already been done and he could not like restart from ground up, I think. And so my belief is that Austin is going to be struggling a lot this year, and probably they're going to be the worst team from the start of the season up until, I want to say, summer break maybe. I do believe that most teams have been honestly performing well so far in the testing and everything. Most of them have a known engine. I mean, when you take apart Red Bull with their Red Bull Ford powertrain, and Audi, who are new in the sport, all the other teams have either Mercedes or Ferrari engines, and obviously those companies have a lot of data. They have a lot of data, and they can, cross-reference between all the teams this data to improve and to make sure that things go well going forward, And so that's my belief, that Austin is really, really going to be struggling. But I do think that within one season, it's literally 10 months of running, and a lot of things happen in 10 months. Cars improve dramatically, and things change basically. I've seen stranger things happen. I've seen McLaren coming back from being the worst team to being the best in 2023, and yeah, I don't say that Austin is going to start the season last and going to finish by challenging the championship just like McLaren did in 2023, and that the next year, just like McLaren was in 2024, they will have the best car. But maybe, you don't know. That's the beauty of F1, that's the beauty of the sport. And I do think that they will be better than Cadillac, some other midfielders. Definitely Cadillac is going to end the season dead last. I mean, I don't see any other way. Even if Aston hasn't got a great start and maybe Cadillac gets a point or two here and there, I don't see a world in which Fernando doesn't outscore Perez and Bottas. That's not something that I can conceive. Even if he has a shit box, they are going to be improving for the year, and they have great resources. That's the thing. They have all the money in the world basically. So yeah, probably they will improve throughout the year, and still not looking great for them, but I think they'll be better. And now the next question, the next point I wanted to touch on is the Big Four, because by the looks of it, what we learned in testing this year seems to be that the Big Four hasn't changed that much. We still have Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull at the top. That seems to be very clear by now. These teams have been the most efficient teams apparently. They've been doing the most groundwork. They've been doing the most laps in testing. Ferrari has a great fast car because they were the only ones to test for qualifying pace, so they shown on the last day in Bahrain that their car means business, and obviously without the others doing the same, it's tough to say if it's real compared to the others or if they are actually just in the mix but not a mile ahead. I don't think they're a mile ahead, honestly. I think that Mercedes probably still is going to be competing, and you cannot put either McLaren or Red Bull aside either. These four teams, they are a mile ahead, and once again, and it's not a bad thing to be honest, once again it's going to be a clear battle between those four. The interesting part is that I think that McLaren has the better lineup. I do. I think that Oscar and Lando is the best lineup on the grid. I mean, one of them is a world champion now, and the other is definitely one of the most exciting talents in the sports in a long time. Probably since Max Verstappen himself. A few have joined since. I mean, I'm thinking about Kimi Antonelli, whom they say is probably the next best thing as well. Ollie Behrman. But these guys are sophomore this year and they still have a lot to learn. And I do think that comparing Lando and Oscar to, let's say, George and Kimi, no disrespect to Kimi, but Kimi still has a lot to prove. I mean, last year he had a rough couple of races in the middle of the season. He bounced back at the end. That was great because people were already talking about, you know, maybe we need to make that kid leave or something, and obviously we don't want that. But still, I think that he's got to prove that he can be a race winner, a regular podium contender, and if he has the car this year, that might very well be the case. I mean, that was what Oscar was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, right? He started, everyone was saying, oh my god, he's an amazing talent, he's very young, but he's super fast. And the first year he did not beat Lando. He was very close though, and he was getting podiums like Lando was. He did eventually get some win races like Lando did. And so overall, if Kimi proves that he's made of the same cloth, next year they would be a very, very good lineup. But so far, I'm not 100% convinced yet. That is that big thing, that next big thing, you know. Of course, we got Ferrari with Lewis and Charles, which on paper is an amazing lineup. The problem is that Lewis had the worst year of his life in 2025, and we still need to see if he can bounce back. A few things have changed over the winter break. He changed his race engineer out with Riccardo Adami, which, I mean, thank God. And I think I was watching a video the other day about David Coulthard saying that he was very surprised that Lewis didn't bring anyone with him. That every time he was leaving a team to go to another, he was bringing an engineer with him. And truth be told, I think it would have been the best if he could have convinced in a way Bono to join him at Ferrari and have Bono with him. Probably last season wouldn't have been that bad. I mean, still the car was a shitbox, but still the poor communication between him and Riccardo Adami was absolutely devastating last year. And if you don't have a good relationship with your engineer, you cannot perform. That's the truth. I mean, you might say things about Brian and Charles, because Brian does make mistakes as well, I think. I mean, must be the water, come on. But still, their relationship is at least much better, and despite the Ferrari being the absolute shitbox that it was last year, Charles got a few podiums and he finished like, what was it, like 4th in the standings. So it wasn't all that bad, not as good as they were hoping for. Everyone saying that they were favorites last year, but at least he got a few podiums in, and Lewis couldn't even say that. So yeah, on paper they are one of the best lineups ever in Formula One, but in truth, it's tough to see Lewis struggling like that, right? Then, of course, you got Max and Isaac. Max is the best driver of his generation, best driver on the grid. Obviously, it's going to be performing. The Red Bull looks like it's a good car, so I don't see how it would not be doing great things. And Isaac is an amazing kid. He is amazing. He's been proving his talent all through last year. He's been proving that he's tenacious, that he bounces back after the lap one, or not even lap one, but formation lap exit last year in Australia. To bounce back and to get a podium in his rookie year is absolutely amazing. What else can you say, right? So I do think that Isaac is going to be performing much better than anyone before him, since Daniel Ricciardo probably. I mean, do you remember in 2022 Perez was pretty much at the start of the season, when it was the new regs when it comes to aero? Perez was pretty much challenging Max for wins. He won a couple of races, like I think he won Bahrain. Did he win Jeddah as well? I don't remember, but no. Charles won one of those. But anyway, I do remember that Perez was outperforming Max on the first few races, and that's the chance that Isaac has right now. He's got a great car, apparently, and the field is pretty much plainer than it ever was when it comes to Red Bull. It's not too much Max heavy, and like I said last time, this kid actually has the same driving style as Max, which is obviously going to be helping him a lot. Now, is the Red Bull going to be harder to drive like it was last year? I don't know. But the thing I can say to be absolutely certain is that Isaac is not going to be struggling in the way that Liam Lawson did last year. That much I take for granted. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do believe that he's not going to be struggling like that, and he's not going to be last or anything. Not as much, like not even close. He's going to be in the top 8, but there's a lot of people in that top 8 and a lot of competitive cars, so who knows? So I don't know. I'm still on the fence when it comes to which team is better than the other. Probably Mercedes is better than everyone else. They've been very good looking so far. They've been consistent, reliable, fast. They could be great this year. That's what everyone's saying, right? Then I think you got Ferrari. Then you got McLaren. People are saying that, oh yeah, McLaren might not be the best car this year. I mean, new regs pretty much means that everything is back to ground zero. So the advantage that they had last year and the year before is gone. But they're still going to be very fast. And they have a great lineup, as I said. And then you got Red Bull. I think that Red Bull might be the best car in some races, in some tracks, but not every week, and I still think they're going to be struggling for that reason. So that was our talk on the Big Four. Now we're going to go to the Australian Grand Prix preview. And what can we look forward to? That's very interesting. What do you say is the most thing that you're looking forward to this year, or this Grand Prix, should I say? I think it's going to be very interesting to see how the new rules affect those new cars. We're going to be kind of in the dark, I would say, for some of the free practice and qualifying and race even, because we're going to have to learn a new lingo, like no more DRS, now we got active aero, we've got overtake mode, those stuff, exactly how it's going to affect racing. That's going to be very interesting to watch, right? And other thing that I'm looking forward to is the looks of the cars, because I absolutely love how they look now. I think that the previous reg was better looking than the 2014 to 2021 reg, when it was kind of ugly, to be honest. But this year it's even better. The cars look amazing. They are reminiscent of the 2000s cars, you know, the F2004 of Michael Schumacher, the McLarens that won the championship in the late 90s. I mean, those cars were absolute beauties, and this car kind of remind me of that. And they look smaller and nimbler, which is obviously a good thing for when it comes to racing. I know that they're not that small compared to previous regs, but it might still be bringing more excitement. And obviously that whole electric power, charging the batteries stuff, I'm very curious to see how it affects the racing, because we have seen a few things, but nearly not enough, and most of all not in competitive sessions, because you might use the battery on the straight on testing, and the other guy might be like, oh no, you're not going to pass me. It's not the same thing as doing it for position, for points, or for a podium even in the race. So definitely I don't think that we've ever seen yet the actual changes that those regulations bring to the table when it comes to overtaking and race strategies and stuff like that. So that's going to be very, very interesting to look at, I would say. Obviously we also have a new team to look at, Cadillac, and not only is that a new team, it's another team. So how is it going to affect the fact that we have not 20 but 22 drivers on the track each weekend? That's going to be very, very interesting as well, I'd say. I'm very much looking forward to this. Is it going to bring more drama? There's also the fact that now more people are going to finish outside of the points than in the points, because before it was 10 points finisher, 10 non-points finisher, now it's going to be 12 and 10. So obviously this is interesting. The points are going to be way more disputed, I would say, and that's exciting. That's exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Cadillac brings to the sports in general, where they go from here. I mean, do they keep their lineup next year? Probably, I would say. They're probably going to be trying to capitalize with the experience of Bottas and Perez. But then who knows, maybe they will be wanting to bring in American rookie like Colton Herta or something like that. We'll see what they do, but I still think that it's very interesting to bring some new blood in the sport, you know. What else do we have? Yeah, the pecking order, I think we've kind of brushed on it. Like I said, to me Mercedes is still the best. When it comes to drivers, it's still very, very hard to say. You would think that George is probably going to be a favorite. Sorry about that. You have to think that George is going to be the favorite pretty much every race. We'll see in Australia if this is actually what happens, and the Mercedes is faster than anyone, then George is the de facto favorite for the win. Then you have to consider Max. Where exactly is the Red Bull compared to the other cars? And you have both McLarens too. You have both McLarens with Lando and Oscar. Are they going to be podium contenders right away this year? And what about Ferrari? Everyone's saying, oh, this is Ferrari's year. But to be fair, they say that every year. So, I mean, we say that every year. I'm a Ferrari fan after all. But it's tough to say where exactly is anyone. Everyone, I mean. So, yeah. Still, I have to do a podium prediction. Because it would not be fun if we were not talking about predictions in those podcasts, right? So I have to do a podium prediction for the Australian Grand Prix. Okay. I think this is tough. This is very, very tough. I think we're going to have... Wait, I forgot. You know what? I'm not a gambler, but I would love to put like, I don't know, maybe €10 on a Oscar Piastri win. Yay! I've been supporting the Australian in his own race. Never has the... What? What's going on? What's wrong? Okay. My camera is dead. Oh, is that the battery is dead already? No, it can't be. Let me check. Sorry about that. Yeah, maybe the battery is just dead. Yes. Okay. Sorry because the screen doesn't look great right now. I had to change to the other camera. Doesn't look as good, obviously, but you know, there's that. Okay, we're going to finish the podcast with this camera, and so basically, yeah. Let me just move it a little bit more like that. And so, yeah, I think that Oscar is going to be winning the Australian Grand Prix. Never as an Australian won the Grand Prix in Melbourne. Never have they been on the podium, which obviously is very sad, and I'm looking forward to see Oscar on the podium in Australia, and if he could get the top spot, that would be amazing. Do you think that McLaren is actually the best car this year or this weekend? Maybe not, but who knows? I mean, last year was a crazy Grand Prix, to be honest, and if we're so lucky, maybe this year is actually going to be great as well. So who knows, right? On second position on P2, we'll have George. I think that George is capable to show that he's the leader at Mercedes, and that he's actually going to be the top spot contender and the favorite for the World Championship. I think that's what's going to be happening, and so I'm putting some money on George P2. And for the last podium spot, I just want to shout out Ferrari and say Charles Leclerc. I don't know if they will be competitive enough, but if they are, then my boy Charles is getting a podium. He just got married. It was pretty nice to see him in that, what was it, a 248 Testarossa, I think. That was beautiful. And I mean, he's probably in the best place in his life. He's very confident with this new car apparently. So he's going to be on his best mood this week. so you can count him out, you know. So that will be my podium prediction for the Australian Grand Prix. And then I wanted to throw in a wild card. I'm not sure about this one, but basically my wild card on the Australian Grand Prix is that we are going to see Audi beat Alpine. In what extent, I don't know. Where will they be? I don't know. Is it because Alpine is going to be bad and Audi is going to be great? Or are they both going to be bad but maybe Audi is better? Or is Audi going to be absolutely the GOAT, the next best thing, like best of the rest? Who knows? I don't know, but I got a feeling that actually Audi is not going to be struggling too much this weekend, and that they're going to be doing good things, beating what some call one of the best midfielders, best of the rest and stuff like that, because of the Mercedes engine. We'll see, but anyway, I do think that we are going to have a great performance from Audi, and that they will be beating the Alpines in overall the weekend, you know. So that was it for the episode 2 of the WOLF1E podcast. I hope that you had a great time. I'm sorry about the camera thingy that broke down. Yeah, reliability, like we said, new regs, reliability is going to be a problem. Same thing on my streams. So hope that you had a great time with that podcast. Obviously, the live stream is not over. We're going to move on to some video gaming, and hope that you can catch me next time. I will put on the link at the end of the stream for the WOLF1E podcast on YouTube, where you can watch the video. Catch you in 5, guys. I will be trying to fix the camera, and I will be right back.